Hi, welcome back to my next Greenfoot lesson. We're continuing to work with our Fruit Wars program. Right now what we have is a pie ship that can drift as we turn it, but we can't make it accelerate yet. What we want to do now is learn to make it accelerate in whatever direction the pie is pointing. So I'm going to double click and I'm going to open up the pie ship code window. And I've done something here, not that important, but I put in some comments. Up here I put my name and I described it. So everything in here is a comment, everything after these uh, stars. And then down here I have a run method, and I also put in a comment explaining what this does right here, that it's a modified version of the move command. So now what we have to do is we're going to do an accelerate on command. Right already we have a turn on command. So what we want to do is we want the ship to accelerate when I press the space bar. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start a new method. So I'm going to call it public void accel on command. No arguments for this one. And I'm going to do an open curly bracket and hit the enter twice and hit a close curly bracket. So I want you to do the same thing. Start your accel on command feature, pause it and do that. Okay, so everything's going to happen if we're pressing the spacebar key. We should know how to do that already by now. I'm going to type if Greenfoot is key down. You can hit the control space if you want, but you're pretty used to using this by now. The key we want is space. And then I'm going to hit the enter key. I'm going to start an open curly bracket and a closed curly bracket as we did before. Okay, so pause it and put the is key down space. Oops, I almost forgot something. Have to put two closed parentheses here. Have to close the parentheses for the if and the is key down. So pause it and put in your all your space, your parentheses. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is I need to know which way the ship is pointing. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to make a variable that represents that. I'll call it int ROT for rotation. Int, of course, means it's a number, right? And the command that tells me which way the ship is pointing is called get rotation. So I'm going to hit control space. So the one I'm looking for here is get rotation right here. No arguments necessary. All this is going to do is just return a number of degrees the way I'm pointing. That comes from this command up here, the turn on command, as you remember. Right now we only have it so the ship can point 4 different directions, 90, 180, 270, and 0. So I'm going to hit the enter key, and I'm going to so I want you to do that. Create your variable int ROT equals get rotation. Okay, so now the way I'm pointing depends on which way I'm going to accelerate. And accelerate means we're going to change the speed. We have a horizontal speed and a vertical speed right now. So let's just do a simple one. Let's do if ROT equals, when I do an if statement and I do a variable and I want to do an equal statement, I have to remember to do both equal signs to make sure that it's equal to something. If I just do one equal sign like that, I would get an error. So I'm going to type 2 equal signs, and pointing to the right would be rotation of 0. So let's say 0. This means, so if I say if ROT equals 0, we're saying if the ship is pointing to the right is basically what we're saying now. So I want you to do the same thing. If ROT equals 0. Okay, so you should have done that. I'll do my open curly brackets, hit enter twice, and do my close curly brackets, just again to make sure that I always close all the curly brackets I open. And so what we want to do, we want our horizontal speed to increase by 1. Okay? Increase because as we move from left to right of the screen, the x is going to go up. So we want my horizontal speed to increase by 1. So I'm going to write horizontal speed equals horizontal speed plus 1. So that's only if we're pointing to the right. Let's just leave it like that right now and make sure that it works. Now let's start. We want to change we had our horizontal and vertical speed set to different numbers. Let's set them to 0. That means right now our ship isn't moving. Okay? And now we've created a function down here, the Excel on command. But remember, creating a function doesn't make it actually happen. If you create a function, you have to actually make it run, right? Building a toaster doesn't give you toast unless you put toast in the toaster. So I'm going to go up here in my act method, and I'm going to do Excel on command. And I can see, just to remember, if I want to see where my feature is, if I hit Control Space, I can actually see my method that I've created, Excel on command. That'll keep me from spelling it wrong. Okay, so now we have Excel on command, right? And if we're pointing right, it's going to increase my horizontal speed by 1. Press the compile key. So let me try it. I'll put my spaceship down. Right now it's not moving. Okay, I'll hit the spacebar key, and my ship begins accelerating and starts moving. If I hit it again, it'll start going a little faster and a little faster and a little faster until it hits the side. We'll do something about hitting the side a little bit later. Right now we need to make it so it can accelerate in other directions besides just to the right. And that's an easy enough thing to do. We're going to use an else if statement. An else if means if that thing isn't true, then this other thing is. So I'll type else if, then I'll do an open parentheses. I'll do an open parentheses, and now we want, let's say if we're pointing to the left. Okay, and you can see if you look up here, left is 180. So this is if we're pointing to the left. Okay, and what I'm going to do now, I'm going to hit the open curly brackets, hit the enter one time, hit the close curly brackets, and inside here I'm going to type horizontal speed equals horizontal speed minus 1. Minus horizontal speed means the motion in the x direction is decreasing. Put some spaces in here, that'll look a little bit neater, although it's not that important. Okay, so now let's try it. Let's compile. And I'll put the pie ship in. I'm going to hit run. It's not moving. I'm going to hit the space bar, moving to the right, accelerate again. Now I'll go to the left and I'll hit the space bar and I'll accelerate the other way. Still doesn't, up and down still doesn't work though. But you can kind of see how this ship's going to start moving. So let's make it accelerate up and down as well. So I'm going to put in another else if. In this case, we're going to say if the rotation is pointing up. Up, if I look up here, is 270. I'm going to do an open curly bracket, close curly bracket, and I'm going to, in this case, change my vertical speed. Vertical means up and down. And now I'm going to put in another else if. And we want this would be pointing straight down. Straight down you can see is 90 degrees. If you're a math person, you might be surprised that going up means subtracting and going down means adding. But remember that in when I do computer graphics, it's the opposite of how it works in math. Uh, as I go down, my y increases. As I go up, my y decreases. So now I'm going to compile it, and I'm going to try this out. I'll put my pi ship in. I'm going to run it. Accelerate up. Accelerate to the side. Accelerate down a little bit. And you can kind of see how we're moving a little bit like we're in space here. Kind of fun. So if you haven't done it yet, I want you to pause and I want you to put in the rotation, the acceleration features here, these 4 if and else if statements. Save it and then compile it and try it out. Don't forget to put in your semicolons at the end. Don't forget to close your parentheses here. Okay, and when we now, right now our ship accelerates. The main thing that's wrong is when it gets to the end of the screen, it just stops and doesn't go anywhere. So on our next lesson, we're going to show how to deal with that, how to deal with find 2 possible ways we could deal with it. I'll show you how to make it bounce off the edge, and I'll show you how to make it wrap around, which those of you who remember the old classic asteroids program should love. So I'm going to show you 2 methods of that in my next lesson. See you then.